you all supporting the club and the things that you do to bring conservative values to this county and to our state. And this dinner really represents that, because you all are certainly great examples of what those values are. And we thank you all for supporting the club, supporting the country club as well, and the Dutch House. So with that, I would like to draw your attention to our program. You all should have one of these at your place setting. If you notice, our theme for this dinner is Save America. I think that's really appropriate right now. And some of our speakers tonight and some of the presentations, you might get some reinforcement on that. But that's our club theme for our term for the next 2 years. We're going to take Save America all the way through the 24 election. So you'll be seeing that quite a bit. The other thing I would ask you to do is, if you open your program and kind of leaf through it, you'll see a page that kind of gives our run of show. We are going to try to stay pretty close to that tonight, so that'll give you an idea to follow along with us if you like. And the last thing I would say is thank you to those of you that bought ads. A lot of you in here helped finance this program, and we appreciate it. I would just ask folks, if you have an interest in some small business here in town or in the local area, feel free to use some of the people that are advertising in our booklet and tell them you saw the ad in our program, and I think that would mean a lot to them. So again, thank you very much for all your support. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce Captain Bill Horn, who is a retired naval officer with 30 years of active service. Captain Horn will lead us in our pledge of allegiance this evening.
Everybody stand up, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, sir. I think Mr. Ron Kirk is going to join us and lead us in the national anthem, if you'd like to stay standing.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thanks, Truman. Nice to meet you, sir.
I'd like to be joined by Brentz Thompson, who is our club chaplain, to lead us in our invocation.
Let us bow our heads. Lord, you are good. We thank you for the life you've given us this evening and this gathering, the spirit of comradeship and love for this country that you have given us. Lord, we thank you for the staff who has prepared the meal tonight. We pray that you will use it to nourish and strengthen us. Lord, you gave us this republic over 250 years ago. Being a member of the republic is not a passive endeavor. It requires activity, it requires thinking, it requires love for the country you've given us, and it requires worship and love of you. Lord, we pray that you will help us turn this country back to you. Let us have strength, courage that comes from you, Let us hear from the speakers tonight who will bring us together, who will fight the fight, and that we can fight that with you. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
So we're blessed with a very large number of elected officials and candidates, and I'm going to take a few minutes to try to introduce them to you. What I would ask us to do is, if you just want to raise your hand when I call your name, that'd be good, so they can kind of connect the face with the name. And then at the end, if we just give our applause in one big round, I think that would be appreciated by everybody, and we can get on to dinner. So in no particular order, so I'm not trying to offend anybody if I get out of order, but I'd like to introduce Patrick Morrissey, our Attorney General, who is not in the room. Where is Patrick? So he's out, he is here, and I'm sure a lot of them met him in the social hour. But Patrick's here, and you'll see more of him in a little bit. Pat Vaya is here. Pat, I saw you. There you go. I did not see Joe Darnell. Did Joe come in? No, I didn't think so. Okay. We do have our two of our county commissioners here. Lil Rose is here with us tonight. And Tammy Tincher, I saw walk on. There she is. Okay. Blaine Phillips, our other commissioner, his son-in-law is getting his degree today at Marshall, so he's not able to join us. So we're thoughtful of him. Kirby Hansen, are you in the audience? No? Okay. Jeff Davis, I thought I saw you come in. Yep. Jeff's here. Jeff is our zoning commissioner. I do want to take a moment and mention Ben Anderson, our chairman of our executive committee and head of the GOP here in the county. Let's see, we have Jamie Baker here. Jamie's here with her husband. Yep, there we go. And now let's see. Most of the other thing I would just mention is we don't have all of our elected officials here. Is we do have the dinner a little bit later this year than we normally traditionally do, and so what you're having is a lot of spring activities. You have commencement, you have sports, you have a lot of things. So Todd, for example, has got a dinner in Monroe County, and that's where Mac Warner is speaking tonight. So a lot of folks are doing some other things. We're not able to join us. So we appreciate their support no matter what. They all gave their regards to you all. From candidate perspective, we have J.B. McCuskey, who's running for governor. J.B., where are you? There you are, sir. Chris Miller has joined us tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, sorry. Chris was going to duck out, but hopefully you got a chance to talk with him during the social hour. Ken Leonhardt is here tonight. Mike Stewart, Senator Mike Stewart is here. There he is, okay. Dan Greer, who I have to pronounce his title correctly. Dan is our Chief Justice of the West Virginia Immediate Court of Appeals. Chris Rose, I know you're here with your wife. Yep, very good. And I have Dee Truman, who is representing Mac Warner tonight. Dee, where are you at? Okay. So at this point, I'll pause just for a second. Did I miss anybody or forget anybody? Going once, going twice. All right, let's give a round of applause to all our candidates. We're also blessed tonight to be joined by Larry Pack. If you don't know Larry, Larry is our West Virginia National Committeeman to the Republican National Convention. Larry currently serves as an advisor to the governor. Prior to that, he was a delegate in District 35, so he knows well the way around the political spectrum in Charleston. And I thought it'd be good for Larry to come up for a few minutes, just give us a quick update on the Republican National Convention and some other thoughts he has on his mind. So let's welcome Patrick to the stage.
Thank you, Gordon. Thanks so much for the invitation. I always love to get back to our part-time home in Greenbrier County. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the Republican National Committee and the work that we're doing. And I don't know if you understand or not, but the Republican National Committee is made up of 168 people from around the country, basically 3 per state plus some of the territories. And we're the governing body for the Republican National Committee. And we're doing a lot of work these days, and it's really, really intense, and it's all about getting ready for 2024. Most of our work today is related to registering people to vote. We're doing a lot of work in election integrity. We've got, I think, 55, 56 lawsuits around the country in 15 different states, and mostly purple states and blue states, and all we're trying to do is get them to follow their own laws. It's really, really difficult. The other team has showed us very, very well that they'll do most anything to try to get an edge in the election. So we have to fight there. We're raising tons of money for that. Of course, fundraising is always a big part of it. We're getting ready for the convention. It'll be in Milwaukee next summer. We're also working hard on to get ready for the first debates. You may have noticed in the past that our debates have really not put our candidates in the best light. we as a Republican National Committee, we've taken charge of the debates. And so now we're choosing who has the debates. We're even choosing who the moderators are. The first debate will be in August. It'll be the second or third week. We're trying to nail it down. Fox News will be in charge of it. We haven't chosen the moderators at this point, but we'll do that fairly soon. But we're very excited about the debate. We're very excited about coming out as the nominee. What kind of happens to the Republican National Committee is once a nominee is chosen, we basically turn the keys over to the nominee. At that point, we take our marching orders from the nominee. Because our only existence, our really number one existence, is to elect a Republican president, and we know that is really important. But very excited about that. I think also there will be opportunities for people to be delegates of the National Convention next year. Please pay attention to that as those opportunities come forward. It's going to be just a wonderful time. I think it's going to be a phenomenal convention. There's just something about being out of power that gives us a lot of anticipation. It also tells us again how important it is. The other thing that the Republican National Committee is very much involved in these days is winning back the Senate. We've now seen 2 years of what a Democrat Senate looks like. We've seen the judges that they're appointing. We've seen the laws and the regulations they're putting upon us. So it's so important to take back the majority in the U.S. Senate. That majority is going to run straight through West Virginia. There's no other place to get to the 51 that we need but through West Virginia. It's going to be, and the resources that will be coming into West Virginia are going to be just absolutely enormous. And for those of you who remember what it was like in the year 2000, Bush versus Gore, when we were a swing state and all those resources and all those TV ads and the money came in, that's what 2024 is going to look like when it comes to the U.S. Senate race. Even our primary is going to be very divisive. It's high stakes. It's going to be that way. We'll see the Democrat Party come in and weighing in on the primary as to who they think will be the best candidate or the easiest candidate for Joe Manchin to beat. But it's really important because as I go through the state and go around the state and as I talk to people, and I'm sure you're the same thing, there's two things I hear most often. Number one is we have to defeat Joe Biden. And number two is we have to retire Joe Manchin. 2024 is the year. But the only way we'll get that done is after we get through the primary, election night primary, we must come together. You know, a house divided can't win. We saw that in 22. Amen. We have to come together. So whoever our voters choose, whoever our Republican voters choose to be our nominee, that's the nominee that we have to get behind. That's the only way that we can retire such a popular senator as Joe Manchin. And one thing about Joe Manchin that makes him such a difficult politician to beat is that he is so daggone likable. He can sell ice to Eskimos. Because if we stick together and we understand the importance of it, we'll defeat and we'll retire Joe Manchin, and it'll be a marvelous day. I've been working for 30 years. A lot of us have been working for 30 years to retire Joe Manchin. 2024 is our chance. Now, I'll be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about Joe Biden. And I want to be respectful. But it's really difficult. On one hand, it's difficult because he goes around shaking hands with people who don't exist. At least I don't think they do. But the other thing is, he's trying to destroy our way of life. Most everything we're for, he's against. And most everything that he's for, we're against. And it's hard to be respectful of that. It's also hard to be respectful when we're the ones called radicals. They call us radicals. And I'm tired of being called a radical. I hope you guys are too. But you know, radicals allowing abortions up to the day of birth. Radicals saying all cars and trucks will be electric vehicles in 10 years. That's radical. Radicals saying, come on through our borders. That's what the Democrats do. They're the radicals. Radicals taking our Second Amendment away. They're absolutely do that. Look at a few steps towards that in Colorado just this past week. Radicals appointed a U.S. Supreme Court justice that doesn't know how to define the woman. That's radical. Radicals asking Saudi Arabia to produce more oil while they're fighting tooth and nail to stop us from producing any. And radicals allowing boys to play girls' sports. But yet they call us radicals. And last and finally, we could go on and on. Radicals allowing grade school kids to determine their gender at recess. They are the radicals, not us. But we have to fight back. We can't sit still. We have to fight the fight. Unfortunately, not every state has our conservative values. Not every state has our common sense values. It's really important, though, for us to say what we believe, to pass laws on what we believe, to get the information out there, to help our folks in other states and let them know how important it is to fight for this way of life that we have in West Virginia that we take for granted. So again, let's keep working. I appreciate what everybody's doing, whether it's at the courthouse or it's the White House. Let's elect as many Republicans as we can. But again, after the primary next May, let's come together and let's be unified. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, anybody hungry? Oh, okay, I got a couple out there. Hey, what we're going to do tonight, we have 2 serving lines, so you go to the right or left of the table as you go up. We're going to start with our speaker's table. So we'll let the Morrisseys lead off. And then Jeff, your table will go next. We'll just go up and down the rows until everybody's fed. And then we'll probably get started again as we sit down with dessert. So with that, I will turn it over here. Please enjoy your meal. Folks, we're right at 7:30. I would ask you just to continue eating your meal and enjoying your dessert. But we are going to press on with our schedule so we can get you home at a decent hour this evening. So please feel free to keep eating and enjoy yourself. But we are going to move ahead into our after dinner program. Well, let me start by saying, if you have not had an opportunity to partake in our 50-50 chance, now is your time. So, Doug Beard has got the bucket. If you're interested in a ticket, raise your hand, Doug will come to you, and good things will happen after that. We'll do that drawing before we close out tonight. So, that said, we have a special recognition tonight we want to do. Being the new guy on the block with the club, I get to do new things. So we came up with an award this year that is, we think, deserving and special. And I'll talk a little bit about that. One of the great legacies of the club is volunteerism. And you all are examples of that because you volunteer with your time, you volunteer with your expertise, and frankly, you volunteer with your money. And we do appreciate all those things very, very much. But every once in a while, something exceptional comes along. And so tonight I want to take a moment and just recognize Jerry Lawfer. Jerry came to us and wanted to do something special for his wife, Marianne Brewster. Those of you who know Marianne, she had a very significant career. So thank you, Jerry. And through some discussions, we came up with the Marianne Brewster Club Award of the Year. So we're going to recognize our Volunteer of the Year tonight. It's the first time we've done that. And so we're excited to do that. But it is in honor of Marianne. And then we're also very blessed to have Marianne's son here, Chris Brewster. So, Chris, you want to raise your hand? We'll have Chris come up in just a second and do that. But let me talk a little bit about our award winner, because I think that's important right now. So this person is an unsung hero. You see this person at every meeting, every event, every time we're together as a family, you see this person. They served in several roles in the club. You know, if there was a vacancy and something needed to be done, this person stepped in that role. And I think that says a lot about them and their character and their commitment to the club and our conservative values. Again, as I mentioned, you know, if you want someone to work on the dinner, you want someone to sell tickets, go to a rally, you want someone to work the fair, which we do this summer, this person is always there. And we really are blessed to have them as part of our team. And I think the biggest thing is they're dependable. If we need them, they raise their hand and they step up and they continue to do that. I can tell you that, you know, this event wouldn't have happened without their assistance as well. And so our opportunity to recognize the Marianne Brewster Volunteer of the Year for 2022 is going to Miss Faye Dunford. And I'd like to have Chris Brewster come up join us just for a moment.
Good job, Faye.
So Chris, why don't you come up and talk a little bit about your mom?
I will not be very long, and I appreciate all of you. My name is Chris Brewster, and I am blessed to be working in television, and I get to meet a lot of people in a lot of places with a lot of inspiring stories. I don't think anybody really knows me, that a few people here and there, and I think probably everybody would prefer if I just move on and be done. Well, it's apt that I say that because I don't have a speech written. I was going to say something very quick. When my mom decided to run for Congress in 1988, she was a divorced woman, mother of two, and she was in her kitchen, and she decided, I'm going to run for Congress. Well, believe it or not, that wasn't popular. It didn't run well, and she decided to just go for it, and my stepdad, Jerry, was right there with her. And the best part about this is, nobody backed her, but she had a message and she had will. And those two things carried her, and she came in 40% against Nick Joe Ray Hall in '88. But 2 years later, she came within 1,000 votes of winning, and they couldn't even call it on the night up. She was on Connie Chung, and the reason this is important is because she is the American dream. And trust me when I tell you, she is exactly what the Greenbrier Republican Party is about. And this is exactly where she's from, and it's exactly what we are looking for. And one of the things that generosity was her main thing, volunteering was her main thing. I caught her one time going through the couch cushions, and I figured, you gotta be looking for the remote. No, she actually was looking for change, and what had happened was one of our relatives had fallen on hard times, and she had written a check to put in most of her account for not that much money, but she wanted to find whatever else was in the house to give to the relative to make sure she truly gave all that she had. And that's what she did in her life. And Faye, thank you, because a lot of what you do is exactly in this spirit. And it's important because she was very much a generous, listening person. And we need to listen to each other. We need to listen, we need to love, and we need to be discerning. And I say this from an outsider. I happen to be from California. I wear that badge like an injured quarterback wearing a pink jersey in practice. But the thing about it is, there is a wave out there that they say that as California goes, so goes the country. Well, let us pray that that is not true. And that is what we need to stop. But it starts with listening, because people want to be heard. And it starts with standing strong. And the people in here, there's no better place and no better time. And I wrap this up with, and I just pray, because when my mom we have an awesome God. And when the Holy Spirit called on her to run, she didn't think twice. When we hear that inner voice, we may be the only Bible, we may be the only thing people see, and we darn well better listen, and we darn well better act. And so I pray that we all, and I just say this, have steady hands, loving hearts, righteous tongues, clear eyes, and wise minds. And we start tonight. Thank you, Faye.
If you haven't seen it, Jerry put together a great storyboard over on my right or left about Marianne and some of the things she went through. So again, thanks very much. We give Faye one more round of applause, please. She's been doing a great job. With that, let me introduce our next speaker. Patrick Morrissey has a BA from Rutgers, as well as his law degree from Rutgers. Served in both private practice and in government service. Was elected as the state attorney general in 2013. And the little factoid I have is he's the first Republican AG since 1933 in the state of West Virginia. So I'm pretty excited. And I'm sure from a current events perspective, everybody knows that Patrick announced his candidacy for governor just a few weeks ago in April of this year. So with that said, I'd like to turn the mic over to our Attorney General, Patrick Morrissey.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and I'm always fond of starting with an item on my biography that you may not be familiar with. And that is, you know that I've been the AG since 2013, but I always say I got my best preparation in politics when I worked as a professional tennis umpire back in the late 80s and 1990s. And let me tell you why. It's because I'd go into these different stadiums and people would boo and they would want to overturn the umpire's decision. I say you get a lot of good preparation dealing with hostile crowds when you're a professional tennis umpire. I think that's one of the reasons why we've succeeded in the AG's office. You know, it's great to be here tonight and spend a little bit of time with you. You know, I've been asked to really focus on a lot of what we're doing in the office. I would say that if you're interested in anything related to our campaign, expect a lot of information in the near future on our website. Go to teammorrissey.com. But what I'd like to do tonight is I'm going to spend time talking a little bit about some of the greatest challenges that we have here in West Virginia and that our country is facing right now. And I'm very fortunate to serve as your Attorney General during this particular time because a lot is going on nationally and within the state. And I feel that over the last 10 years, 2022 and 2023, probably some of our biggest years. Busy, the opioid epidemic, all the litigation we're involved in, Medicaid fraud, consumer fraud, and then of course something I like to do every day, suing President Biden's administration. So, what's great though about the Attorney General's office is that we serve right in the middle of all of those firefights. And it's important to have someone in that office who's going to be standing up to protect our Constitution, our freedoms, and our way of life. Because let me tell you, they are all under threat and duress right now. Every day I wake up, I think about what this Biden administration is doing, and I think, how do I have to sue them today? And what that means is that they have an aggressive agenda that's going after our West Virginia jobs and our way of life. So what I'd like to do is kind of walk you through the waterfront of some of the issues we're working on, and we're going to drill down a little bit because these are things we all should be very concerned about. Now last year, many of you may remember that there was a certain controversial law that was out there called the Inflation Reduction Act, right? Well, Senator Manchin was a principal author of that. When I remember looking at that law, it struck me, not only was it terrible for our country, it was going to do the opposite of reducing inflation, but they stuffed almost $100 million of new funding into EPA regulatory authority. And now we're really seeing it at its highest point. Over the last few months, we're seeing one new regulation after another going after our energy jobs here in West Virginia. We know that they just finalized the so-called Waters of the United States rule. You guys may have heard of that. That's the situation where you have a backyard ditch and an ephemeral stream, and they're trying to regulate it like they would the Potomac, the Ohio, the Mississippi. I put together a 25-state coalition. We went after that, and we have an injunction of that Waters of the United States rule. But here's why it matters. Thank you. Here's why it matters right here in Greenbrier County. A lot of farmers in Greenbrier County and in neighboring Pocahontas and Monroe and a lot of the rural parts of our state. And we know when they're trying to classify your backyard ditch or your puddle in a way that could be a federally navigable waterway with penalties of $37,500 a day, that could have a crippling effect on jobs here in our state. That's why we step up and we take the point. We know last year we were very fortunate after 9 years to win that famous West Virginia v. EPA case because you may recall that there were a bunch of unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. that thought they could reach down into their bag of tricks and reorder the nation's power grid. This was part of Biden's Green New Deal plan. You guys are all familiar with that. They want to put West Virginia out of business. Fortunately, my office and 23 other friends of mine, the AGs, we said no. You lack that authority. And in one of the biggest victories against the deep administrative swamp, the administrative state, we were able to bring home an incredible victory, making clear that Congress writes the law, not unelected bureaucrats. We fought back against the swamp and we won. But Washington seems to have an approach that is going after our jobs here in West Virginia. And we have to fight back. And that's what we do. That's a big part of the Attorney General's office. So I can tell you that we have a great group of people, and we work collaboratively with a lot of our colleagues across the country. So there are issues that matter to West Virginia, we're out in front leading. Other issues, we're working as a team with them. And let me tell you, this administration, they've kept us really busy. You remember all those vaccine mandates? West Virginia was an integral part of the group that went up all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And we were part of a coalition that won every single case but one against the mandate, against the forced jab. That was really incredibly important. We know in West Virginia, we're seeing people in the healthcare world who are still hurting to this day because they've been forced out of work. We have to stand up against that kind of overreach. There are new threats coming every single day. The Biden administration is trying to go after our free market way of life here in our country with these so-called ESG policies, where they're trying to force energy companies to close down or comply with their rules. They're trying to transform every federal agency into an environmental regulator. We don't let that happen in the AG's office. And why? Because it matters to protect West Virginia jobs, your freedoms, and our rule of law. So the Biden administration's busy. Whether we're talking about a tax on our jobs, or trying to force the jab on you, or taking away women's ability to play sports fairly, your West Virginia Attorney General steps up and fights that repeatedly. Some of you may have been watching Fox in recent weeks about one of our big cases that went up to the U.S. Supreme Court. This is a critical issue. We had biological males who want to play sports with women. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think this should have to go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, because to me it's a matter of basic common sense and fairness. Biologically, men are different than women, and I certainly am not afraid to say that. But the Biden administration is trying to do the opposite. They're trying to force schools now to accept this premise. We're not going to let that happen, and that's why you need good work in the Attorney General's office to block that nonsense. Let's call it what it is. These are crazy, far-left, woke ideas, and they will not stand in the great state of West Virginia. A big part of my job is defending laws that our state legislature passes. You know, I know we have some state legislators here. I see Mike Stewart here. I think there are some former legislators here as well. I thank you all for coming, because one of the critical roles that we have to do every day, we have to defend that legislative work product, and that we do. Right now, we're defending the most recent abortion law in court. And let me tell you that I think this is so critically important, because you have to make sure we're defending the most innocent in our society. I proudly do that because innocent babies deserve a voice. And I will keep defending life as long as I'm Attorney General or any other office I'm in. Last year, we were in the middle of a big case regarding education. Any of you familiar with the big school choice law and the legal challenge from last year? You know, for many years, people had blocked meaningful efforts to change our schools, to get stronger and stronger. Educational attainment, for the longest time, we're down 48, 49, 50. That's got to change. Well, our legislature saw fit to move a new broad school choice law through, the Hope Scholarship. Money follows the child, and this provides new opportunities for kids to get better educational attainment. Now there are going to be more options in the state of West Virginia. Unfortunately, when that law was passed, it immediately got challenged. And they were actually successful to stop it for one semester. But my office, working diligently with others, we stepped up, we defended Hope Scholarship. West Virginia now has intact one of the broadest school choice laws in the nation. So we're busy in the Attorney General's office. We're doing a lot, and the work we do matters to everyday West Virginians. Right now, our state's being ravaged by inflation, right? We all feel it. We feel it at the gas pump. We feel it with respect to the price of food, price of milk, price of eggs, going through the roof, right? Part of the reason for that is the Biden administration's had an utter assault on a lot of the energy that West Virginians use. And when energy becomes more scarce, prices rise. It's been a huge driver of inflation. I believe one of my roles as Attorney General is to serve as a brake for that. And every time we win in court, it's a way to provide additional relief to the hardworking families in West Virginia who deserve a better standard of living. So that's critically important. But we've also been busy taking on other challenges that have been occurring in our state for a long time. Many of you have heard me over the years, and you know that we've been working diligently to fight against the opioid epidemic. Well, it's been no more important than right now to be out in front doing that, because we're beginning to see new attacks coming on the horizon. Now, you know about the threat from the legal pain pills, right? That occurred over a long stretch of time. There was product that was flooding into our state. And I'd say beginning about 2011 and 12, there were some efforts to begin to curtail that. I brought a lot of litigation forward, and we've been wildly successful in that litigation. I can report to you today that West Virginia, through its litigation, is the #1 per capita in the country in terms of these opioid settlements. #1 by a country mile. But it's not just what you do getting the settlement money in, you have to spend it the right way. And that's why I'm pleased to report we have a first-of-its-kind program in the nation, a new private foundation that's going to be able to better manage the resources. You know, I don't want the government to throw it into the deep black hole when you get $1 billion. These monies have to be spent wisely. Government's not very good at doing that. We've been excellent at focusing on saving your taxpayer dollars. We've saved over $1 billion alone for our taxpayers and consumers. And the opioid monies that are going to go through, that's going to save lives. We're going to target the problem holistically from a supply, a demand, and an educational perspective. And I would argue that the reason why it's so important to focus on this is because we're seeing a massive surge of fentanyl coming in from across the border. These products that originate down in China, they come up to the Mexican drug cartels where packages are finalized. Then they make their way over the border right here to West Virginia. Do you know that West Virginia is #1 in the nation for fentanyl overdose deaths? That's terrible. That has to come to an end. I've been working with many in law enforcement, and we have to make that a top priority. We can't allow another generation to fall prey to senseless death. And I'm going to be committed, in this position and the next, we have to stop the death that comes in that's being sprayed on all our kids. It's got to be a priority. So there's a lot that goes on in the AG's office, but it's put us in a position where we can affect a lot of good for the citizens of our state. You know, I said at the beginning that one of my jobs, I believe, is protecting your job. And we've been successful at that. Win after win after win on big issues you care about, moving the needle to make sure that you have energy jobs, you have jobs in the healthcare industry, you have jobs across the board. West Virginia has an opportunity now to move to the next level. We've been starting to get better as a state with some of the decisions that have been made, right? You're starting to see that, some of the tax cuts that have gone through, the vote to support the opioid foundation, and so many other school choice provisions, good steps forward. But we have a lot of additional challenges. You know, just today alone, we have 65,000 people in our state, open jobs in our state. Can you imagine? 65,000. #1 in the country for unfilled jobs. We have to better take that on, and we will. We have opportunities to do that, and in part, when you have good state government work from the top down, working together, facing these challenges, there's no stopping West Virginia. A lot of progress made, but a lot more that can be done into the future. I feel fortunate to serve as your Attorney General during this period of time because these Washington woke liberals, they're going to keep coming after you. And we need to be strong, and we need to have someone who's taken on all these liberals and these woke folks and who never backs down That's certainly been my record as I've served you over the past 10 years. Thank you. So I come to you tonight to talk about what we've been doing in the Attorney General's office. You can only imagine what this will mean going forward if we apply the same principles into the future. West Virginia is that shining state in the mountains. We have so much going for us. We're within 10 hours of 180 million people. We are the most beautiful state around. I moved here by choice because I love the great state of West Virginia. You know, I'm always fond of telling the story that I didn't move here, because I was thinking about someday being your attorney general or governor or any position. You know, I remember hiking on the Appalachian Trail. I remember being in a kayak in the Shenandoah River. I used to actually come out to the Eastern Panhandle and visit. It's an amazing place. I'd come down right here to Greenbrier County. We need to make sure we're creating the most hospitable environment in West Virginia to lure more people here so that we can continue to grow as a state, to see our population rise, to see those workforce participation rates increase dramatically. That has to be a major goal going forward. So I feel very fortunate to be here tonight and share some of these stories with you. I want to thank everyone in this room who's helped me along the way. You might remember that back in 2012, there were no Republicans in the Board of Public Works. You know, I was the guy trudging up the hill, challenging a guy that seemed like he had been in office for 80 years. You remember that, Darryl McGraw? That guy was around forever. And his feet were encased in cement. And everyone thought, there's no way you're going to beat that guy. But we knocked on doors, we made phone calls, you contributed, and we ultimately won. And we were the first ones across the line for the new West Virginia Republican Revolution. After 2012, then you start to see more change. The legislature flipped in 14, and we won a lot more seats in 16. And now, every single seat in the Board of Public Works and every federal seat but one is Republican. And I have a feeling that that one last holdout is going down in 2024. So, West Virginia has an amazing opportunity, and we're on the national stage. We need to convert and make sure that we're building on that success that started now, and that's why you need strong leadership in all of these offices. Now, before I take questions, and I think folks want me to spend a couple minutes taking questions, I wanted to pause for a moment. A couple weeks ago, something horrific happened in our country. Something that bothered me, and I'm guessing many of you to your core. President Trump was indicted. He was indicted by a woke prosecutor, someone who ran on a platform of indicting someone. Now let's step back for a moment and appreciate what that means. Can you imagine if an attorney general said in advance, well, we already know the difference between innocence and guilt, and we don't care, we're going to go after someone anyway. This is not how the rule of law works in our country. What they're doing in Manhattan resembles what a banana republic would do. It's not right. They're treating President Trump unfairly, and I think everyone in this room, across the state and the country, needs to stand strong with President Trump during this time. So I come before you tonight as someone who was a proud resident of the Eastern Panhandle, but I'd like to argue that Greenbrier County should adopt me because I'm joined here tonight by my wife Denise, who is a proud resident, and I can tell you, there's no one that loves Greenbrier County more than my wife Denise. Denise, thank you for all of your support. So, it's great to be here and to share a little bit of time with you and to think about the challenges we've won together in the past and what we have in our future. But we have an incredible opportunity in West Virginia. We just have to take advantage of it. So with that, I would like to open it up to any questions that you may have. Happy to field them. And I don't know if we have a mic around or...
What is our relationship with BlackRock and the crew?
I think the question was, what is West Virginia's relationship with BlackRock?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to get a mic? So there have been efforts, some successful, to start to restrain some of these groups like BlackRock and Vanguard. That goes to the ESG issues that I've been talking about. I've been leading a 24-state effort against the SEC's rule. We've been out in front of this issue for years because we're worried they're trying to create these new metrics, which actually are very harmful to energy. They don't want the use of fossil fuel. They don't like coal. They don't like oil. They don't like natural gas. And so there have been many in West Virginia, and I support these efforts, who've been pushing back and saying, if you don't like our way of life, then we don't have to do business with you. And so you're seeing that there have been some efforts successful to limit West Virginia's investment in those kind of funds. There's more that can be done, quite frankly, and I think you're going to see and hear more about that over the next couple of years. So BlackRock's a powerful force, but here in West Virginia, we cannot let some of these companies who do not agree with our West Virginia values run roughshod over them. And I'm going to keep fighting that now and forevermore.
All right.
I think there's a question, ma'am?
I pointed out how your campaign's progressing. I was there when you made your announcement.
Yes, so the question is, how is my campaign proceeding? It's going great. And so we've been very fortunate that we've been able to get support around the state. I think people know I'm the one proven conservative running with a record of really moving the needle, being in these firefights, getting things done. So I know I'm not here tonight to really talk much about that, but I will tell you, I couldn't be more pleased and humbled by the reception in every corner of the state. It's been phenomenal, and I'm going to keep going. We've got another year, but it's been going very well. Thank you. All right.
You mentioned the matter of mandates for the jab.
Yeah.
It is now being pressed that these mRNA chemicals are being introduced into our livestock. Is anything being done to prevent that here in West Virginia?
I know they're pointing to the Agriculture Commission, who's probably an expert in livestock.
Would you like to answer that?
Kent, do you want to take that?
I'll be glad to take that. We've done some research on that, and it's actually a lot of fake news. So a lot of those things that they say are happening are not happening, and some of that is coming from corners that agree with not promoting the jab, but they're using that as a way to try to accentuate their argument. And it hurts everybody when people use false statements to rally up behind their own cause. So it's hurting the cause that we want to have happen by doing that as well, but it's not really happening.
Is there assurance that these mRNA vaccines for cattle and or chickens aren't harmful to people?
It's not being used.
It's not being used here in West Virginia.
Correct.
Well, that's what I need to know. Thank you very much.
There you go. See, isn't it good to have a strong Agriculture Commission here when you need them? Round of applause for Catalina Park. Next question.
Hi. What can be done to help bring doctors and other medical professionals into West Virginia in places that in particular, if somebody retires, suddenly it doesn't exist?
Yeah.
And teachers.
I'm sorry, and teachers?
And teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great question, and there are a couple answers to that. First of all, I'm always a believer in competition, right? And when you think about the competitive framework, if you're in West Virginia, what do you naturally do? You first look at all the states that you touch. What is Virginia doing? What is Kentucky doing? Pennsylvania, Maryland, Ohio. And let's face it, you have to compete so that teachers have the right salaries and that people could make a good living right here in West Virginia. So one of the things that I want to do is you have to engage in that comparison every day. It's part of what's driving our problem, why we have a woeful issue right now with respect to corrections officers and a lot of state workers. There are some regional jails that have 70% of the people unfilled jobs. I mean, I kid you not, it's outrageous. You have to make sure that you're competitive in what you pay our law enforcement, our first responders, our teachers, and obviously we need to have better access. We're in a rural area, and I do think there are opportunities. I believe that there are things we can do to actually reduce some of the regulatory barriers. One of the big things I was proudest about during COVID is I pushed very hard to open up telemedicine policies in West Virginia. And there were a lot of people pushing back against me on that. But we were successful, and that was really important because it actually opened West Virginia up to access from people, sometimes out of state, but also in state, to be able to go and utilize their wares and help people in other states. We should be thinking about the world differently in the post-COVID world. West Virginia is an amazingly attractive place, and people could live here if we have the right type of internet that doesn't move at the speed of slow. And let's be clear, some of the service providers, even that operate in this county, they move too slow, they need better customer service. But with that kind of approach, if you start to open up the doors a little bit, you make it more attractive for people to come here. And obviously, you have to compete on pay and be cognizant of where we stand versus other states. And that's, I think, kind of the basic principle. We have so much going for us. We just have to make sure we're not falling behind in areas that state government's not been too good at in the past. Thank you. One more question? Anyone? Any other question? I see.
No. Yeah, hold on, we have one. You have one more question? I do. Okay.
This is another agriculture question?
No.
You fire away, my friend. Go ahead.
You touched on it already, and that is the matter of the internet and the position of the state with regard to the promotion and distribution of 5G, which is shown to be harmful to the health of people.
Okay. So I have heard that some people have made that argument. I've not seen any data backing that up. If anyone ever wants to share data for the Attorney General to read, I'm always happy to look at it because I think you get educated every single day. I've not heard of that. I've been a big advocate of gaining access to a lot of the broad technologies that connect West Virginia to the rest of the country and the world, because that's how we're going to be even more attractive in terms of getting more people to move here. We need to be connected fully, and that's a priority. When we think about an infrastructure investment, it's not just roads and bridges and dams. It's got to also be the labs that we have. I know our Agriculture Commission will focus on that. The internet infrastructure is critically important, so we need the best available high speeds. And I've looked at 5G. I've not heard of that complaint, sir. Well, I'm happy to look at it, but we need to have that. The satellite, you see what Elon Musk did in the Ukraine? These are unbelievable things. Why should any person in West Virginia not have access to the internet? That's critical. All right. Any other questions that you may have? I hope you found this informative. I want to say thank you, Greenbrier County. Thank you, West Virginia, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again very soon.
All right, we're getting to that time. We had a good meal, I think. We got you fed. You got some inspiration from the Attorney General. Now, somebody in here is going to get paid. So, Frank and Doug, you want to do the honors on the 50-50 and see who our lucky winner is tonight. We're going to draw for $174 tonight. That's the winner's share. So get your numbers out.
972580. 972580.
Hey, look at that.
There you go. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you all for participating in that. That means a lot. It puts dollars back into our general fund, which goes back to these candidates next year when they're looking for some support from us. So we appreciate that. While we're on thank yous, I think it's incumbent upon us, if you had a good time tonight, to recognize our dinner committee. If you want the dinner committee, please raise your hand. There you go. If you want the dinner committee. Okay, very good. The special recognition of the dinner committee is Dr. Doug McKinney, who was our chairman of the dinner tonight. Thank Doug. Wonderful job, as always. I'd also like to take a moment and thank the officers of the club. We have a new slate of officers this year. They are in your program, but they provide an awful lot of support to this club and to you all as members. And so if you don't mind appreciating that, I'm worth it. So finally, if you like what we're selling, I'd encourage you to join the club. Greenbrier County Republican Club is alive and well. We are growing, and we're trying to do new things. We continue to manage our mission of education, of outreach, and support. So as I mentioned a moment ago, the $174 that we're keeping in the club will go back to these candidates next year. These kind of events sponsor those funds, and we're able to support all of our elected slate candidates every year with club donations. So it's an exciting time for that. But I would encourage you, if you like what you're hearing tonight, what you're seeing tonight, feel the energy in the room, join the club, be part of the team. So let's do that. Two things to close with. If you are a club member or interested in learning more about the club, we did change locations. The courthouse is no longer available to external bodies. So we are moving down the street to Old Stone Presbyterian Church. We are going to be next Thursday night at 6:30. We will be open for business in the fellowship hall down there. So please come and join us at Old Stone next week. And if you have a long-term planning calendar, your iPhone's out, December 8th, we'll be right back in this room for our Christmas dinner. And we look forward to seeing everybody then. With that, I'd like to turn over to Mr. Ron Kirk, who will close us out with God Bless America.
Stand, please. Let us say a prayer. God bless America. God bless America, land that I love, and beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all coming out. Have a wonderful weekend and travel home safe.